Hello, my dear learners! We now come to the second lesson for MELC 5, Employ Analytical Listening in Problem Solving. And our lesson is on verbal and non-verbal communication. And these are our objectives. First, define and discuss verbal and non-verbal communication. Second, differentiate verbal from non-verbal communication. And third, identify the type of communication in sample statements or scenes. For better understanding of the lesson, be guided with these questions. 1. What are verbal and non-verbal communication? 2. How is verbal communication different from the non-verbal? And 3. How can verbal communication be identified from the non-verbal ones? Our way of communicating with people depends on many factors: formality, degree of closeness, exclusivity, and confidentiality, to name a few. Today's session will deal with general types of communication known as the verbal and non-verbal communication. So what are verbal communication? Verbal communication is the use of auditory language, which includes sounds, words, or speaking to exchange information with other people. Tone, volume, and pitch of one's voice contribute to effective verbal communication and may alter the meaning of words or sentences, especially when spoken. Using verbal communication, thoughts or emotions or information is exchanged between individuals through the use of speech. It can be delivered in formal or informal way that is documented and creates impact through precise, concise, and clear information. Examples of verbal communications are letters, emails, notes, reports, or anything in oral or written form that uses words. Though verbal communication is easier to deliver and understand, what makes it confusing are the cues or signals that can alter the meaning of the message. The message could be positive, but how it is delivered, for example, sarcastic or ironic, could make its sense negative. Okay, so those signals are what we call non-verbal signals used in communication. Let's have non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is a communication through non-verbal or visual cues, including gestures, facial expressions, body movement, timing, touch, and anything else that communicates without speaking. Aside from the body language and touch, voice quality, non-verbal communication can also be seen through space or distance. According to the Great Westlife Center for Mental Health in the Workplace, verbal and non-verbal communication are equally important. Sometimes, the latter is considered more important as only a small percentage of our messages come from the words we use. Non-verbal communication includes the following: tone of voice, rate and volume of speech, how we articulate our words, rhythm, intonation, and stress placed on words, facial expression, the amount of eye contact we make, gestures or touch, and body language and posturing. In addition, non-verbal communication is informal and very comprehensive, for one must know how to interpret the gestures, movement, and expressions of the speaker, which can be confusing and complex. In written communication, non-verbal signals can be seen in the writer's penmanship or style, the spacing, etc. One's ability to use non-verbal signals appropriately can create trust, transparency, and a powerful influence on the quality of our relationships at work. The following are the barriers to sending consistent messages. 1. Our stress level. When we are experiencing personal or work-related stressors, we may be more likely to misread other people's messages and to send inconsistent or negative nonverbal signals. This may make it more likely for us to display inappropriate behaviors such as yelling, blaming, or impatience. Number 2, our well-being, psychological and/or physical. If we are not feeling well physically or emotionally, we can be more likely to focus on the negative aspects of a conversation, and we may be more likely to send negative or uncaring non-verbal signals. Number 3, distraction. If we are distracted by thoughts or our environment, in example, looking at emails on our computer screen while speaking to a worker, our nonverbal signals almost certainly convey disinterest. We may give people the impression that we don't care or at not listening, even when this may not be true. To wrap up, in this session, you learned about verbal and nonverbal communication. To sum up their differences, verbal communication uses words and language that can be easily conveyed and understood by the recipients even in their physical absence. Nonverbal communication, on the other hand, requires physical presence and uses expressions, gestures, touch, and distance to convey meaning, which can be confusing due to the signal's complexity and vague meaning. However, these two types of communication, when combined and interpreted correctly, can send a clear, concise, and meaningful message. Oops! Comprehension checkpoint! So let's check your understanding of our lesson. So you now have to apply what you have learned from the lesson. So the activity is watch and point out. The directions: watch the news report from CNN on the rehabilitation of the Boracay Island. Write these 5 verbal and 5 nonverbal clues or signals you were able to observe in the duration of the coverage. Write your answer on the table provided at the bottom of the page. To end this session, let me leave to you this thought to ponder on. The most important thing in communication, hearing what isn't said. And so that's all for now. Thank you, my dear learners. See you in our next session. Goodbye and keep safe always.